So in the next couple of videos that I'm going to make, we'll take a look at absolute value equations, how to solve them, and absolute value graphs, what they look like and how to transform them. This first video you may feel comfortable skipping over. It's going to be a short review of what absolute value means and what the absolute value parent graph looks like. So if that's something you remember from Algebra 1, feel free to just jump into the more complicated stuff, the transforming and the solving equations. But if you'd like a refresher on absolute value, sit back and we'll do that. So the first thing I want to remind everybody about is what absolute value means. So what does it mean when I ask you to find the absolute value of a number like -5? And what that is saying is, please find the distance. So I'm looking for, this means the distance -5 is from 0. How far away is -5 from 0? So if I think about a number line here, here's 0, 1, 2, 3 in the positive direction, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. I'll extend it out and include a -6 in the negative direction. And here's where -5 is located on my number line. The absolute value of -5 is another way of asking how far or what is the distance that -5 is from 0. So let's count. Let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps away from 0. So the answer to this question, what's the absolute value of -5, is 5. 5 steps away. We could do that with lots of numbers. Let's try the absolute value of -2. How far away is -2 from 0? Well, here's -2. It's 2 steps away. So the absolute value of -2 is 2 steps from 0. What about the absolute value of 3? How far is 3 from 0? Well, let's see here. Here's where 3 is located. Let's do that in a blue color. How far is 3 from 0? Let's see. 1, 2, 3 steps away. So the absolute value of 3 is also 3. Notice that all the values are positive. So absolute value is a positive answer. And the reason for that is that distance, when we describe how far one thing is from another, we usually use a positive value. Let's look at some more complicated ones. So how about if your problem is not just one number inside, but a couple? -5 plus 2. What's the absolute value of that? All right, this we need to be careful with. So a common error is to say, oh, I know about absolute value, it makes everything positive. Well, let's see, then let's just make this all positive. And so the common error would be to say, oh, -5 plus 2, what's the absolute value of that? Well, I'm going to make everything positive and then add it together. And oh, the answer must be 7. But this is wrong. And it's wrong because it's important to use order of operation. So use PEMDAS, order of operation, PEMDAS, order of operation. And absolute value falls under parentheses. So you want to do everything that's inside the absolute value bars first, and then find the absolute value of the one number you have left. So let's do this correctly. So order of operation says do what's inside absolute value first. -5 plus 2 is -3. Now I'm down to one number. How far is -3 from 0? Well, it's positive 3 steps away. And there's my correct answer. All right, so that's absolute value in a nutshell. Use order of operation if you have more than one value, and make sure you're writing your final answer as a positive number. Let's take a look at the graph of the absolute value function, and we'll think about the parent function, the most simple absolute value function you could come up with, which would be y equals the absolute value of x. And let's make a little table of values. I'll put my x's here and my y values here. And let's pick, I don't know, a handful of negative and positive numbers. Usually that's a good idea when you're trying to get a sense of a graph. Pick a couple of negative ones, pick a couple of positive ones. Usually 0 is good to put in there. So I'm choosing -3 all the way up to +3. Now let's plug those values into our function. So let's see, -3. What's the absolute value of -3? Well, -3 is 3 steps away from 0, so when x is -3, y is 3. What's the absolute value of -2? Well, that'd be +2. I can kind of see where I'm going, so absolute value of -1 is going to be 1. What about the absolute value of 0? How far is 0 from 0? Well, it's 0 steps away, so the absolute value of 0 is 0. And the absolute value of +1 is 1. Remember, we're not changing the sign here. It's just how far is a number from 0. It's 1 step away, and I write that answer as positive. Absolute value of 2 is 2, and the absolute value of 3 is 3. Take a look at that table. What do you notice about all the values in the y column? They are all positives, right? So that means when I go to graph, if all my y values are positive, that means that all of my points are going to be up on the top half of the graph. All right, let's go ahead and graph these. 1, 2, 3 in each direction. -3, +3. So over 1, 2, 3, up 1, 2, 3. There's my first point. -2, +2, -1, +1, 0, 0, +1, up 1, +2, up 2, and +3, up 3. And yep, you see all the points are up on the top half of the graph in the first and second quadrants. Go ahead and connect these. And you can see that I end up with this V shape. So all of my absolute value graphs are going to look kind of like that, like a V. It's similar to the parabola, this graph. Remember, y equals x squared. So it looks a little bit like my parabola, my quadratic graph. And as we'll see in the next couple of videos, it behaves somewhat like that. The graph behaves somewhat like the parabola as well. But they're definitely going to be these V's. So if you'd like to take another look at any part, either the how do you find an absolute value section or how do you graph an absolute value function, you could review this. Otherwise, if you're feeling confident, let's move on to the next video.